Hello, and welcome to Point Counterpoint, the 46360 show. This is our February 9th, 2019 edition. The opinions expressed by the show's hosts, myself, Dwayne Perry, and Anthony Tony Hendricks, will many times conflict, thus the title, Point Counterpoint. Point Counterpoint is a weekly issue show for our area. Point Counterpoint always lets you judge for yourself. We live in an information free-for-all. It's hard to see through all the misinformation and get to the accurate facts, what's right and best for our community. We will not libel, discriminate, or disrespect anyone or their views. We believe in the constitutional First Amendment right of free speech, and we support anyone who voices their opinion as part of their duty to their community. This program brings you just that, an unedited, honest, candid discussion of issues. The producers of Point Counterpoint are solely responsible for the content of the show, but because the show is not rehearsed, we take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by our guests or for the information they gather from public sources. We would adhere to all applicable federal, state, and local regulations concerning limits of public speech and program content. The intent of the show is to thoroughly research current issues that affect our community, present the facts surrounding the issues, discuss the pros and cons, then present to our viewing audience what we together or individually feel is the best solution for both the community and the public. Point Counterpoint, the 46360 show, is a property of its producers, Dwayne Perry and Anthony Tony Hendricks, and may not be rebroadcast without the written permission of its producers. The producers take no responsibility for the opinions of others in the postings of comments in chat rooms, blogs, video logs, forum posts, or other media. We welcome and encourage ideas and suggestions for the show. And I gotta say, we're getting a lot of them now. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, finally hitting us. Great. We can be reached at 46360show@excite.com. Our shows will air on Comcast Cable Access and will be rebroadcast by us on YouTube under the label Point Counterpoint 46360 Show. As I always say, all you have to do is search 46360 Show and it'll come up. Again, welcome to Point Counterpoint 46360 Show, brought to you by myself, Dwayne Perry, and Anthony Tony Hendricks. We hope you enjoy the topics, our discussion, and the show. Well, let's get started, Tony. What do we have on our agenda for today? Oh, wait a minute, let me pull it out.
Ready to go.
How can we have an agenda if I don't give it to you?
All right, we want to talk about the South 421, 300 north of Michigan City, the big intersection there.
Yep.
We want to talk about the News Dispatch article on guns and gun-related crime in Michigan City. There's an interesting here, I guess I'll just do a quick tidbit. The new Hardee's is open. I drove by, I saw the lights on, you said it was open, and they are open. It was jam-packed, parking lots is rolling, but IHOP was closed.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
So do we trade?
We'll have to investigate that.
I didn't pull up and read the sign, but there's a thing on the sign, and people are pulling up and they're leaving. So we got a Hardee's, but it looks like IHOP's closed. The article on Indiana's, it wasn't a reduction, on Indiana teacher salaries and the legislature and how much money they're giving, since we always talk about that.
Okay.
The rebuttal of some comments at you went to the council show.
I went to
city council.
Last city council meeting, and Police Chief Swistek gave his annual crime report. And during public comment, after he finished, questions and comments were taken only from the council. So during public comment, I came to the microphone and I said, I'm here not to challenge the chief's report, but I have a question. I have some information I would like his comment on. And I gave him the information that I provided to you, our audience, at our last show that I got from a website, an internet website, areavibes.com.
And I just looked it up on my phone. You can get this because I wanted Dwayne to bring it up, that where you get the information, because they're right, lots of things on the internet that are not trustworthy and you better start researching, but this is a website, areavibes.com. It's kept up, it's updated, it looks like it's 2019. They have lots of stuff. On my phone I can pick it up and it's the same thing he presented.
Right, and if you didn't catch our last show, what we went over was this Area Vibes report on Michigan City. It wasn't specifically crime. We didn't attack Chief Swistek and the crime report and the crime condition in Michigan City specifically. It was a report on livability in communities. And I checked it out on Michigan City, and we did not get a good score.
Yeah, they say right here, livability, 56.
Amenities, they gave Michigan City a D. All the normal amenities, public service, bus transportation, medical care, all of that kind of stuff. Cost of living, B+. Our property values are very affordable here. Crime, F. Education, C+. Employment, F. Housing, F. And weather, D. Well, we know that we live in an area of the country that has 4 seasons, and our winters are long. We actually have only about 3 months of summer where we can expect tourists because the kids, September is an acceptable month, but after Labor Day, the kids are back in school. So that was what generated what we did, and I asked, there were several alarming statements made in this, percentages and numbers, and I gave them to the chief. And he said his response to that was that there's too much negative information on social media. Most of it is incorrect, and that he commented on our show that he had watched our show, and we seem to dwell on negativity, which really isn't true. It's our goal on this show to serve and protect our audience, the public, the people of Northwest Indiana. If we see something, an article that's about Chesterton, if we see something about South Bend, we'll comment on it. And so then the chief, he criticized the show that we were being overly negative and that our numbers weren't substantiated, probably. So I guess I'm jumping out of sequence,
well, no, I mean,
but since we are doing this,
well, we need to talk about a little bit. I mean, the show, there's some things that aren't good to talk about.
they're unpleasant.
And but I think this is kind of a local show. I don't see many people watching this, when they come here, or especially in these months. And the point is that we need to address these. We can't just run away from them and hide from them. They are a fact, And we talk about people on the internet, the younger generation looks at this. So this is a website, and I'm going through it. It's on my phone. And this is what young people are doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So you look at Michigan City, the livability score is 56, Potawatomi Park, 85, Chesterton, 78, Porter, 78, Valpo, 75, Trail Creek, 74. So you look at
and we
Trail
were what,
Creek,
58?
we're 56.
56.
So, and this website, Area Vibes, is mostly geared to real estate. So they are kind of quantifying people looking at real estate. Well, okay, I'm looking at real estate in Michigan City. What do I need to know about Michigan City? And this is what the younger generation's pulling up. It's not good. It's horrible to talk about, but
we do have issues, and they need to be addressed.
Yes.
I guess a simple analogy that's probably not very attractive. You can call a swamp a garden all you want, and eventually you may get people to believe it's a garden, but it's reality a swamp. And I was a little bit set back at the chief's response. I was expecting more of an address of the items that I mentioned, the specific numbers and percentages, and a little background comment. But so I decided to substantiate our source of information. So I found several others. And we always quote our sources, which for some reason the administration does not. NeighborhoodScout.com. They have a crime index of 100, 100 being the safest, 1 being the worst. Michigan City is 5. They gave Michigan City a 5. Basically, they say specifically, Michigan City is safer than 5% of the cities in the United States. That's worse than
Area
Vibes gave us. NeighborhoodScout.com said your chances of being a victim of violent crime in Michigan City is 1 in 121 versus 1 in 251 for the state of Indiana. So, that may sound, that's better than what I said for Area Vibes, they said 1 in 26. They just gave a 1 flat rating. 1 in 26. You've got a 1 in 26 chance of being a victim of crime in Michigan City. They didn't break it down. Neighborhood Scout did. They said violent crime, which is defined as murder, rape, robbery, assault, which is basically what Police Chief Swistek said. And murder it's in the statistic, but it's not really fair because murder is a impulsive crime. It's a spontaneous crime. It's really very seldom, I believe, can law enforcement predict that a murder is going to happen and be there to prevent it. All they can do is solve the crime and arrest the guilty, which, I mean, I'm not putting that down. That's vital. But the murder still occurred, and it still becomes a statistic. It's the other ones that we're talking about. And as I said, neighborhoodscout.com said you have a violent crime, 1% chance of being a victim, 1 in 121. And property crimes, which are burglary, larceny, vehicle theft, and arson, you have a 1 in 23. Now that's the crime that can be attacked. That comes from education, jobs, prosperity. When I first got into council in 2012, I was having a conversation with my son, and I said, my younger son, and I said, we're going to have to attack the crime problem in this town, the drug problem in particular. He said, Dad, you're never going to do it. You're never going to do it until you get some jobs here, until you get more money in the community. He said, if some guy's sitting there and he doesn't know what he's going to lose first, his car, his living, whatever.
Maybe he's not even eating.
Yeah, he doesn't afford to pay bills and maybe not enough to buy all the food he needs. And he sees an opportunity to get money to do that somewhere, he's going to take it. With education, with prosperity, with jobs, or jobs come before prosperity, you're going to see a decline. You're going to see a decrease in that noticeably. Okay, well, I want to blow through this because this is not the sole purpose of the show. This first started, this debate, around March of 2018 when USA Today, nationally published newspaper, said Michigan City, rated Michigan City has the third largest increase in crime over the last 3 years, 79.5%. And whoa, did that ruffle some tail feathers? And so that's when this debate started. So there's a source that we quoted. The last place I looked at was Sperling's bestplaces.net. They rated in crime, 1 being the lowest, 100 being the highest. Michigan City violent crime, they rated it 30.1, and property crime, and I defined both of those before, as 69. And I've quoted all of my sources, so what else can I say? It is what it is. We can call it a garden, but it's not. And at the rate we're going, eventually, the only thing that's going to separate Michigan City from Gary is 23 miles, the distance. We're going to basically be exactly like Gary.
Well, that's the point of the discussion. It's really the point of the show that there's things we need to look at. And to dovetail before we get to this article is that, Chief Swistek, or any chief for that matter, the police are a reactionary force and they do a very good job. But if you want them to start being proactive, then that's a troublesome path we've discussed between Dwayne and I, and probably on the show if I remember right. If you want some proactive police in Michigan City or the state of Indiana, that's a slippery slope. Are we going to go there? And so I don't fault any chief. I mean, it's not the chief's job to set the tone and get the jobs and education, which we talk about all the time on the show. There's nothing more important than education and jobs, or in Dwayne's side, jobs and education. So, that's what sets the tone. And like you said, if people can't find some food, and we're talking basic level food, a couple of dollars, Salvation Army, they resort to things they shouldn't do. If they don't have to get up in the morning to get a job, so they don't have a job. If they don't have food to feed themselves or their family, what do you expect people to do? They got to do something. They got to survive. Like you said, humans are survivors, and things happen. And so I don't blame any chief any police force for doing what they need to do to stem the problem, but you got to look at the root, and that's why let's go on to the article. The article in the News Dispatch, February 6th, Reining in Handgun Violence, which I told Dwayne, it's a very good article, and if you look at it in that respect, I'm trying to get to the quote here. Yeah, there's a quote here from Chief Swistek. Last year we saw too many reports that guns were left in the glove box, the armrest, under the seat in an unlocked vehicle, and they were reported stolen, the chief said. And in people's homes, we're finding that they're getting into these homes, stealing the guns, trading guns for narcotics. I mean, that right there struck the nerve with me. These people are doing anything they can, whether, narcotics and their addictions, and we have the opioid crisis going on, which area vibes, and the other statistics you had were very, very revealing that we have a base level problem, but if they don't have jobs and they don't have a paycheck and they can't feed, we have to talk about this. So this article I thought was great. I'm glad they have LaPorte County Prosecutor John Lake in here, and I know he's going to make the punishment pretty severe. So you better think twice. People who, I know you're struggling, but if the opportunity comes along, you better think twice. County prosecutor is going to back these police up, and they're taking it to the mat. This is just not going to be a brush off and a little fine here or some probation there. John Lake's going to come after you. And then I'm glad they interviewed Barbara Easton Watkins, and she really likes the police department helping them, and they're doing everything they can to make sure these students are educated and can get out and get a job. So later in the show we'll talk about jobs, but then they go over firearm safety and storage, which are good points, but you're not really addressing the base problem.
No, and that's where I was going with my comment and providing information that I asked the chief to comment on. Several things that the chief said I agree with. We have a really big problem, and it's not just Michigan Cities, it's in society. We have an enormous crystal meth problem. These methadone, what is that? Methadone related drugs, and it's coast to coast. North, south, east, and west. It's everywhere. I saw it out in the state of Washington when I was out there. It's everywhere. And we've got to address this as a city. This has got to be a citywide effort. But I get confused at times because, again, right after I got elected on the council in 2012, I was invited to a Krieger neighborhood meeting at Memorial Park, and I sat there. Sergeant Yagelski was there, and I gave my opinion. We started talking about crime in Michigan City, and I said I really believe that we need an active neighborhood watch program. And the sergeant said, well, the police department really doesn't feel that's effective, and we don't encourage it. And I still don't understand that. I can understand that you've got to control the calls that come in. If you have 25 people in a neighborhood watch, you can't have people in a neighborhood that when they see, oh, there's a guy out there and it's 1 o'clock in the morning, they call the police. No, there's not enough police to cover that. But if you have rules and procedures set up, that if Tony and I both live in the same neighborhood and I see something, I don't call the police until I've called Tony and he says, yeah, I think that's legitimate. Then we call the police. We're not reactionary. And the other problem I thought that maybe was the basis of Sergeant Yagelski's position was that people have a tendency to get overzealous. I'm no different than anybody else. I see somebody out there, and if they're doing something wrong, if I see them going out in the garage, I'm going to go out and say, hey, what are you doing out there? And people will get engaged in this. They'll take it upon themselves, and then they become a victim of the crime. And so I can understand that a little bit, but it still is going to require a citywide effort, and it's in education. It's you can't have an effective educational system when it starts when the youngster walks into the classroom and it ends every day when they walk out. They've got to get encouragement. They've got to have discussion about what's going on, what did they learn, where are they going, what's the value of it at home. And we're not getting that, and I think that might be in part the economic condition. The things are tied together. These different areas are tied together. So many people are struggling economically that all they can do is focus on getting enough money to pay their next round of bills this month. And they're not worried about Johnny's education because they're worried about, are they going to have enough money to pay the house payment? It's really a larger problem than just the crime report.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because you're looking at students, or really anyone, they get in school and they're learning something, they're getting an education that, what's the value or what's the next 5 years in the future for them? And that's something, I understand administrative people are appointed by the mayor, and they can't come out in the paper and say, hey, we do have gun problems, and we need to look at the base level, and we need to focus on education and jobs because that makes our job easier and there's less crime. You can't come out and say that. I understand that, but if the person doesn't see, oh, I got this valuable education, like we have A.K. Smith, it's very good, and they don't see, okay, where is that going to lead to a job in Michigan City? It's obvious they're not seeing that. And they're frustrated, and they're falling on hard times, and they turn to things they shouldn't turn to. So unless you get down to the bottom of this, it's like you're just going to chase your tail because we can't get them education and jobs so they have a future.
Well, I agree, Tony. There are a lot of different approaches that can nibble away at this and cut it down. One I'll mention, and I'm going to mention from time to time because it just appalls me, when I learned that the city pays a union contractor $75,000 every year to string the Christmas lights up and down Franklin Street. Hey, they're beautiful, but they're not $75,000 worth of beautiful. and this Michigan City is 29,000 people, actually, because the other 2,200 are in Indiana State Prison. You tell me that we can't put it out for kids that are working age 16 and older when they're out of school for Thanksgiving break. Put them to work. Have the kids string the city lights.
You're beautiful.
Just not too smart.
A little bit of levity. Yeah, so let's move on.
Put the money back in the community, in the youth.
Yeah, I didn't want to go there, but let's go there. And we've said this before, and this happens in a lot of towns. You elect people, and to be elected, you have to live here. But we see a lot of times we get elected administrations, and they hire everyone out of town. These people don't live in town. One of our city attorneys doesn't live in town. Sanitary district doesn't live in town. A lot of people don't live in town. So I guess in Michigan City, you could vote for elected officials, but you just can't work for them.
Yeah.
And we hire people out of town. And you look at a lot of people that work for the city, they live out of town, they live in the county. I mean, that speaks volumes that even your own people are not living in town. They are.
Absolutely.
And that says a lot, because you look at any worker in town, a street department worker, a policeman, a firefighter. If you're in town all night, you know what's going on. You know whose car should or shouldn't be there. But when you leave here and you go to your county home, you don't know what's going on here at 1, 2, 3 in the morning when it all goes down. It's sad that we can't even hire local people.
If you work for Michigan City, you should be committed enough to live in Michigan City. That's my position, and we don't have that right now. I've heard several of the candidates that ran for mayor in 2012 say as they did then, Michigan City's an island. The Mayor Muir said he was going to hire Michigan City people. City Hall is still an island. We still have the majority of the people do not live in Michigan City.
Our city engineer doesn't live here.
City planner doesn't live here.
City planner moved here, right?
Oh yeah, he finally moved here. Yep, I take that back.
Craig Phillips, he moved here. It's very impressive. We hired sanitation. Lives in way
Cedar
out
Lake.
East. Cedar Lake,
yeah.
lives way out east.
Our ex park department superintendent Jan Orlich, she lived way over in Lake County. Come on, don't tell me we don't have talent here in Michigan City because I don't buy it.
You're good enough to vote for them. You're just not good enough to work for them. That brings us. Well, that's why I started with the new Hardee's. I'm glad Hardee's is here. Hardee's, I think, took over Burger Chef back in the day.
Yeah, they did.
We had a Hardee's on the Boulevard. That's a really neat place. Now I got a new Hardee's, and it was packed. I drove by, it was overflowing packed. But I asked Dwayne, because I talked to him what night? Thursday night? I think Thursday night I called, I said I was in town and on the south end, I saw that the lights are on at Hardee's. Are they open? He says, yeah, they're open. I'm thinking, well, there was no fanfare or notice that this was a great thing for Michigan City in the paper.
Ribbon cutting. No
ribbon cutting. I mean, and obviously because, like you said before,
I'm not going to go into that.
The value of jobs and future is Hardee's. I mean,
another fast food, low wage, no benefits job.
And then
we just keep going walking that same path.
And I looked at the Hardee's, and there's a lot of spillover, so they're looking for a place to park, and people are like, well, people are going to go over there parking IHOP. Well, that's not going to make IHOP happy. Well, I looked, and there wasn't anyone in IHOP. There's a sign on the door, looked like they were closed. But that brings us to, there's a technical advisor meeting on Thursday morning, which the county surveyor sits in on for the county. And at 300-421, there was a petition to have a new truck stop and 2 new hotels. So it's not a secret, it's a public meeting. And I called Dwayne up and said, hey, there's a new truck stop and a hotel going in on 300-421 at the old dump site. And I remember what you said. You said something like, I said, is that all we can expect? And he said something like, what, do you expect more? Sad, but, and we discussed this because, Michigan City says what's good for LaPorte County is good for Michigan City. And I guess what's good for a truck stop, and the hotels weren't there on the plan, so I don't know what happened to those, but a truck stop on the south side of Michigan, is that good for Michigan City? Is that what we're going to see now, a big truck stop? And Love's is a good truck stop, believe me. And then I get into the discussion of, okay, we got a truck stop, we got a big parking lot. If we get an autonomous truck driving in the next 3 to 5 years, what happens to all these truck stops and parking lots? But Love's corporate must realize that there's some value there and to invest in it, and they see Michigan City as a good place for a truck stop.
Unfortunately, I hate to get on a rant, but I don't want Michigan City to be a stop for over-the-road truckers. I mean, my feeling on this is, as Tony said, the mayor said, what's good for LaPorte County is good for Michigan City. Well, county businesses don't pay property tax to Michigan City. They pay them only to the county. But beyond that, we came that far away from getting a truck stop at Michigan Street Extended, 35 and 94. Now we've got one on the west side of Michigan City on 20, Gallops. We almost got one on 94 and 421. We really don't need this kind of development. And Michigan City, you can say, well, it's in the county, like the Love's is in the county, but where that Love's truck stop is going to be, it's at least 10 miles from LaPorte, and the truck stop that would have been at 35 is at least 10 miles from LaPorte. They're right on the border of Michigan City. They're both on off ramps to Michigan City. So, Tony, you can comment on this more than I do. I think at one time, Michigan City was working with LaPorte County on economic development, but hasn't that been somewhat fractured?
That was split off, I believe, when the mayor got elected. They pulled out. We had a unified LaPorte County economic development, that one person, one-stop shop, and we all worked together, the city of LaPorte County, Michigan City, and we all worked together to draw anyone here.
Right.
Whether they pick Michigan City, city of LaPorte County.
And Michigan City not having a say-so on businesses that are new businesses that are located right at their doorstep is wrong. Michigan City should have stayed in that so that they could have worked with the county in the planning, in the zoning of what businesses are there. Though both of these truck stops, the one that's going to be there and the one that was almost there, are 10 miles away from downtown LaPorte. They're right at Michigan City's doorstep. Michigan City should have had a say-so on what businesses. I don't want to be a stop for over-the-road truckers. I'm sorry.
They're not coming into town. They're parking there. And truck stops are very well kept. They're not island diesels anymore, but they're parking there for their required sleep time or not driving time, and they're moving on. This is not, hey, let's come in and check it out and spend some money.
Well, that's
So
Debatable. Go over to Lake Station.
yeah, like
Ripley.
yeah, there's some things that happen around a truck stop you don't want happening in your community.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't have to discuss that, but so that brings up the topic of it all works together. Values of jobs and education and the crux
priorities.
and the leadership and the priority to where we go. So that brings up, I saw an article in the Northwest Indiana Times, which is it's great to read that every day, folks. February 6, 2019, Dan Carden is the author. So I saw this article, and it's Hammond. Hammond has Mr. McDermott, the mayor, going down to Indianapolis with Representative Ed Soliday, and they were asking for help from the state for taxes or abatements for a $40 million, 105,000 square foot data center with the potential of $200 million, 400,000 square foot data storage. So that's high-tech stuff. And so the mayor, Tom McDermott, they want $3.5 million to $7 million reduction in sales tax revenue for these people, 20-year sales tax exemption. I'm looking for how many jobs they were. They have. So I said $200 million in investment by this firm, and high-tech jobs, good jobs that will probably be around because we're talking technology and data. We're going to be around for a long, long time in the future. So here is a mayor going down there, and they had a picture of him and Ed Soliday sitting there, and they're asking for help for a $200 million investment in their town in what is the old generating plant.
The old, I said it right here. It used to be the State Line generating plant. When you would ride the South Shore in Chicago, it was a big, old, beautiful, all brick. A lot of ornamentation in the building, right at the state line, which is why they call it State Line. They had a huge fire there years ago, and they decommissioned it shortly after that. But it's right on the lakefront. Beautiful place for development of something that really helps.
So it's a data center, but I don't want a data center here. But this is a mayor who's right out there, downstate, making the case.
He's going after it.
I want the money. I want a $200 million campus in my town. I don't like a dilapidated generating station. We need jobs. And I'm sure when they do we keep saying the $1 billion development here at NIPSCO, we're going to be down there asking for abatements and tax, but we're asking for tourism and service industry jobs. This is a high-tech data center.
With about a 3.5 month summer.
Yeah, it's about a 3.5 month summer.
Still don't get it.
So here's the mayor. He's on it.
What are they gonna? What does he want to build there? A data center.
It's a data center, high-tech data center.
Well, that's white collar.
White collar. Yeah, this is a high-tech job.
A couple hundred white collar jobs.
Yeah, these are tech jobs. These aren't any
it wouldn't hurt Michigan City one bit.
These are tough. These are
jobs that are in demand.
These are jobs that can continue to be in demand.
Yeah.
With high technology and data center.
Yep.
We said that in our report that these are the jobs you want to fight for. We said that last time. I brought that here. In Michigan City's 30% of its workforce can be automated in a very short order, and we're talking about fast food, sales, tire changers. I mean, those are jobs that are going to be automated, but this is not. This is high tech. This is technology here. And the mayor went down there and he went out for it. And I was right in front page of Northwest Indiana Times. Which brings up the other end of this when I put it on my phone. So there's another article the next day because the Chicago Auto Show is going on.
Yeah, right.
Auto Show is going on. There's an article that Ford, which is just across the state line, they make the Explorers.
On North Torrance Ave.
North Torrance Ave. They're going to add 500 jobs and invest $1 billion in their plant. And you knew something about this plant, right? Some old timers.
Yes, I did. Several fellas from my dad's generation lived there all life. Said that Michigan City, when Ford brought that plant to Chicago, they brought it in to North Torrance Ave as a secondary choice. They wanted a plant in Michigan City. They met with Michigan City, and that was a long time ago. It's not. Ron Mears' mistake. It's not Sheila Burleson, Chuck Overly, I don't know who it is. Long time ago. Probably before Francis Fetter, which is 55, I guess. And Michigan City pushed them away because the automobile industry has always been so heavily unionized that they were afraid that Michigan City was going to become a totally union town. They were afraid what it would do to the wage balance in the city. But I've driven by that plant so many times. It takes up blocks and blocks, square miles.
Oh,
it's so huge.
It's getting bigger. $1 billion more.
Yep. And we could have had it. We could have had it. So many jobs.
And
Ford Motor Company's here to stay.
Everything we do,
we missed a piece of that pie.
It just keeps coming back to education jobs. Because as soon as I looked it up on my phone, Ford 500 jobs in Chicago, the first thing on here is Ford Motor Company adding jobs, apply, hired immediately, full-time, part-time Ford jobs available, $18 to $65 an hour, hiring immediately.
Yeah.
There's nowhere in Michigan City that says that.
No.
Or even close. Well, maybe LaPorte.
You know,
See LaPorte. You got some real good companies. Yeah,
you know, it's fine. I think the chief had an owlie on his heart, and he criticized us, Chief Swistek. But we don't thrive on criticism. We both, Tony and I both, we're Michigan Cityans at heart. We want to see this city prosper. And when we learn about these things that just happen that don't make sense, decisions like pushing Ford Motor Company away, you know, this so much emphasis and priority on as being a tourist town with a 3.5 month tourist season. We can't wear the rose-colored glasses forever because eventually you actually can start to see what it is through the rose coloring. We got to start making better decisions as a community. I don't thrive being negative, but we're falling behind, and we got to change direction. The son I mentioned in the article, he lives out in Rockville, Maryland. I can't talk to him today. He's there, no opportunity here. My oldest son's in Milwaukee. My younger son, my daughter's in Maine. Why? No opportunity. And I keep telling people that if we don't start making the right decisions, everybody's going to lose their sons and daughters and their grandkids because there's nothing here for them.
Yeah, and you look at, that's my biggest beef, is that Michigan City is a jewel. It is the most, we have Lake Michigan, we have beaches that are unbelievable, we have access, we have ground south of the city, we're expandable, it doesn't make sense how this can't get put together.
If you want to make or distribute a product that goes over the road, we are this hub of the wheel.
Oh, yeah.
You can't do any better than right here where we're at. If you're going east to west, you're either going to go through northwest Indiana, you're going to dip way down south, or you can go up through Canada over the Great Lakes. And all of the different interstates that come into hubs here, I-65, I-55, I-57. You go north, Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Plain States. You go west, Iowa, Nebraska, Colorado, all the way out to California. We're where it's at. Anybody that distributes or produces a product that is delivered to its destination over the road is crazy for not setting up here. They don't know, they have no idea what they're missing.
Yeah, and that's part of an administration to lead that charge that, hey, here we are. We look at some areas that we have the old JMR building, we have the Brown facility, we have the old Anco plant, we have lots of things sitting here that somebody has to lead the charge.
In the old Joy Manufacturing, I've heard too many times, industry's not interested in us because our buildings are too old, they don't have the ceiling heights they want. Well, I've been on projects where buildings have been modified. You raise the height of the building, you raise the ceiling. It's not a big deal. We got to think out of the box. We've got beautiful property tax paying property that should be in service. And we're letting a little thing like raising the roof off, take the roof off the building and put some column splices in and give them another 10 or 12 feet roof height?
It probably needs a new roof anyways.
Yeah.
So just put the new roof on and raise it up. So back to something we missed was there was a news article on Indiana teacher salaries and the budget, and I don't remember what the number was. I think it was like $275 million that was going to be extra for teachers in Indiana, and we've gone over this over and over and over again. If Indiana's sitting on $2 billion in reserve, and all we can do is give them 200 some million, it's not going to fix the problem. But I want to say that the newspaper did a really good job at it, saying we need to give teachers more money. And they talked to, I believe, Brian Bosman, the head of the state representative
State House, yep.
And he said, well, if you look at it on the whole, it's cheap to live in Indiana, so really they're paid really well. And that just doesn't fly. I mean, I would hope anything that comes out of elected officials' mouths is we need more education, which means more jobs and better jobs.
We not only need to ante up for the teachers more money, we need more teachers. When you're teaching a teacher, trying to be effective in a class of 25 or 30 students has got to be so difficult. We need smaller class size. More teachers, and paying teachers more money will bring more qualified teachers.
And there isn't a week goes by I don't read an article that there's a teacher shortage. Well, of course there is. If you're only going to pay them $25,000, $35,000 a year, who wants to become a teacher? Who wants to spend 4 years in college and get a degree to become a teacher at that rate? Now, people say, well, you're not working this summer, you could work another job. But again, I think we take at least 2/3 of that $2 billion and we pay teachers. We take the risk. We invest in our teachers because it will pay dividends in the future. Not taking the risk and only spending 200 some million, I think is what's the saying? It's penny wise and pound foolish. You're at some point you will pay. It will come to roost and you will pay because you're not educated.
Talking about the teacher thing, Tony, I just had a thought. It's a different world we live in today, and we've got to adjust to that world. I can remember as a kid, all the teachers, Mr. Gorman, Mr. Whitlow, Mr. Karstens, the list goes on and on and on, that when you got out of school in June, you'd see them around town working summer jobs. I remember seeing several of them working for NIPSCO during the summer, digging ditches, doing whatever for NIPSCO. And it seemed to me that all the people I mentioned teachers have never made a lot of money. But they grew up in Michigan City, they got their education, and they came back here and taught because they wanted to live here in Michigan City. They overlooked the fact that they didn't make as much money as they could in some other places. But today it seems like people are different. And I'll tell you, my daughter's one of them. She's up in Maine. She's a teacher. Why? Because she loves Michigan City. She loved growing up here, just like I did. But she's tired of struggling. So she flew some paper, boom, like that. She had a job in Maine, making substantially more money. And we're getting people that aren't willing, and I don't blame her for that. I miss her, but I don't blame her. They're not willing to give up all that money just to be home. And that's why we're losing our youth.
Well, you can't live.
It's
not a livable job.
No, I can't blame them.
So let's move on because we talked about this over and over again. And there's an article in there about Senator Charbonneau had a 48-0 passed in the Senate, which I haven't really decided whether I like this or not. It divides the state into water regions to promote local utility cooperation. Consolidation requires utilities to annually measure their water loss due to leaky pipes, mandates the governor to appoint a water czar, so I'm not really a fan of that, another government employee, because somebody thinks we can't seem to get together and coordinate between water departments. And the water czar to coordinate state water program and create a task force to tackle stormwater management issues. Now, I said this before, the number one thing in life is oxygen, the number two is water. So we have to have water that we can survive. The issues, he says, the issue is when you have galvanized lines that connect to lead lines, the galvanized lines will absorb the flaking that happens to lead lines. So even if you come in and replace the lead lines, you're not completely fixing the problem. We saw that in Michigan, so they're talking about lead lines. If the municipality replaces the service lines, your house lines might still have lead in them, and you'll get lead in your water, which we saw in Michigan. That was horrible. He said if we pass the legislation, Indiana will be the first in the nation to have a comprehensive removal plan. I like a removal plan. We talked about this.
Removal of lead pipes?
Of all lead pipes. But
inside the house too?
I don't know. But yeah, well, in Indiana, the IURC, the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, approved that American Water, so that's up in northwest part of Indiana, can charge us an extra fee to go replace all the lines from the main line to the service line to your house. Not in the house, but to the house.
Okay.
So that, to me, there's a couple things here. We have a water czar. There's another government employee. We all know what happens with that. Somebody gets a little kingdom and they start bollocksing up the works. And then we have the ability to replace all the lines because it's completely underfunded, and that's going to cost money. And there's just another fee or another tax when we're here struggling to pay, for food, and people are addictions. And I mean, I like.
Well, that's an enormous subject, Tony.
Yeah,
we could do 30 minutes of a show on that.
I mean,
because my feeling is, it needs to go right up to the faucet where it comes out.
Oh, I do too.
The water comes out. Those houses in Michigan City were built per approved codes, Uniform Building Code, State of Michigan City, State of Michigan City, State of Indiana, United States of America. And so our government, if we're now finding that they're getting lead in the water because of that, the government has a responsibility to step forward and help these people. Not necessarily pay for the whole thing, but help them to afford paying for it. That they
finance loan, something
that to help these people out. Now, I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't know how we're doing time-wise. Andy just came in the room, so I think that hammer's coming down on us here pretty soon. But I as a public service, I really want to mention this. I think it's very important. This morning I had a conversation with one of our state representatives, Jim Pressel, and he mentioned that currently there is legislation in committee regarding the law protecting school buses when a school bus stops to pick up kids or let them off and the arm swings out, to stop people from going around that arm, because there have been too many small children, there have been too many people hit and killed, kids. And
well, one's too many.
One is too many. It's a horrible thing. And Jim said that, Mr. Pressel said that that's in committee and it's going to be wrapped up this Wednesday. And if it's not approved, it's going to be tabled till sometime in the future. So he asked me to pass the word that and he said that statistically they found over 3,000 cases in Indiana statewide every day of cars driving around that swing arm and the black flashing lights and everything. And I guess the problem is there's so many gray areas about what they want to make the punishment for that. The fine, the punishment for it. And he said that if it doesn't make it to the Senate for a vote, if it doesn't make it out of committee and it's supported, it'll drop back for another year. So please, he said, if you feel strongly about that has to be processed this year, as I do, which I've done already since talking to him this morning, go on the internet and email the state at H20, H like in House of Representatives, H20 at indiana.gov, email that your support, that you want that passed.
I think it's H20 at in.gov.
Yeah, I think, isn't that what I
You
said?
said Indiana.
Oh,
IN.
yeah, IN.gov, I'm sorry. I want it to go through. So it's very important because we don't want this thing, we don't want one more fatality because of this.
You know why you remember that? Because H20 is H2O.
Yeah.
It's a water. So yeah, H20 at IN.gov. Real easy.
And one last tidbit on that same subject. What people don't realize, and I looked it up, I looked up the statute on it. When you have an intersection and a bus stops, it's not that you cannot go around that bus only. All traffic at that intersection stops. Say the bus is coming this way and the cross street is here, and you say, oh man, I'm just going to go a different route. When that arm swings out, you can't even go across. You're not to go through that intersection. The law is traffic stops everywhere around that bus, that intersection stops until that bus, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know that.
Well, Michigan City has a strange conundrum out east of town because, and the paper had a little show of what you should do and when you stop and when you don't stop. And if there's a divided highway with a median, you don't have to stop. You can go through because the kids would never cross that median. Like the boulevard used to have a concrete planter and median, so the other side could keep going. But Michigan City has a strange area just east of the railroad tracks by Solaire because it's divided, but it's only divided by gravel.
Yeah.
So do you stop or
swale.
don't you stop? And I think the police would say we don't stop until you get over by the dealership, and then there's no gravel there anymore. It's actually a paved turn lane, so that is no longer, that is a stop.
That would be a tough one.
So
because a kid could still run as long as they're not an island, they're an elevated structure.
Yeah, they could still run.
A kid could run through there and get hit. No.
So they got to clean that up. But boy, if you feel important, and I've seen some videos, and they're hooking buses up with cameras, and it's amazing how many people just blow right by them, just not a care in the world. Just,
that was part of the program.
You put cameras
to put cameras on these swing arms.
It's when you see these videos and the state's posting them, that they're amazing.
That's right in line with what we've been talking about ever since that little 5-year-old girl got killed in Michigan City. That we've got to protect the children. We got to protect the children.
So let's get back to the lead pipes, since that was a little topic. And you're right, you could take 30, 45 minutes. You only got 5 minutes left about. If American Water and Michigan City could do this, and I guarantee you they're looking at it. I don't know, but I have no insider information, but I guarantee you're looking at it. But if Michigan City, and you're talking like Gary and these people with casino, we could either provide some low finance to these homes, and we're not talking about a lot of old homes. We talked about this before. We're talking about homes in the 70s that had copper and lead solder. I mean, and Charbonneau's right. Just because you replace the lines, and you need to replace the service, and you're right, you need to replace the home.
Yep.
There's lead in there, and that goes back. We know what lead does to your brain. That goes back to education.
Yeah, yeah. I'm smiling because I just thought of a way to do it.
Okay.
But I can't. I'm not gonna throw it out there.
Okay.
I'll tell you after the show. Can't.
It's a surprise.
Because
But
show me the money, and I'll show you. Show me the money. Okay.
the House is the Senate approved it 48-0, so that means the House is probably going to approve this. I don't like there's another water czar. Administration drives me crazy. I mean, the money we spend for a water czar to require utilities to cooperate, promote local utility cooperation. I think they cooperate very well. I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. I've never had a problem with the water departments. They all seem to work together. They have a main goal. They're the second most important part, according to human life, is water. They test it. And I don't think we have any problems with our water lines, our service lines. I think the problems from the street to the house and in the house. If we're going to look, let's look where it probably is. You know, this whole, we got to look at the paint. I like that you can test your kids, and I encourage that.
Yeah, but I don't.
For a learning disability,
I don't buy paint as the problem.
In school, yeah, I think the water, and Michigan City's got some great water. I mean, some of the best water in the world, sitting right here on Lake Michigan. We're lucky. But there's going to come a time now, so get ready. just like American Water did in Northwest Indiana, there's another charge on your bill. There's going to be another fee approved by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission.
On top of the NIPSCO rate increase, on top of this, that, and the other.
It's only a pizza a month. We can afford that.
Where's it going to stop?
So
Well,
there's our
that's it.
agenda, but I want to go, and I didn't tell you, but the Surveyors Convention every year,
Yeah.
and I go down every year, and I always think, what thing do I want to hear about? What do I want to go to convention? What will teach me something I could learn and bring home? So this year they asked for courses, and I said, okay, I'll teach a course for you. So I gave a course, and one of the discussion was the court case in Michigan City and the Lake Michigan.
The beach right.
The beach rights, which
Yeah.
we haven't heard, have we? The Supreme
No.
Court hasn't decided whether they want in on that. or
Coming
not.
soon, whether or not they're going to rehear it.
So we're waiting for that one. But if you look, and this is kind of the challenge I put out to our viewers, and I've talked to Bob Pollock about it and a lot of other people. If you look at why this started, if you boil it down to what happened with Lake Michigan Beach and Michigan City, and you probably remember this just like I do. When I was a kid, you'd go to the end of Washington Park, the pier there, and it was 6-8 feet of water. You could jump off that pier and you'd be in 6-8 feet of water.
Yep.
There wasn't sand for 300 feet. It wasn't there. So I started researching that, and I've heard, I'm not old enough, the Hoosier Slide, where NIPSCO was, huge sand dune, right? Way bigger than Mount Baldy. Just enormous. And that was the beach we everyone went to, right?
Yeah.
That was the beach, not where we know the beach.
Well, on the west side of the NIPSCO plant was the Hoosier Slide.
That was a big beach.
That was
huge beach.
Well, we used to have like a ski jump there. I've seen pictures
Yes.
of it.
So the charge is, you look at the lighthouse we have, and it was put in there, I think, 1915 or something. Not that long ago. So it hadn't been there for that long. And if that starts backing up sand, which we see a big beach now, in front of that whole works progress, that concrete median, it's all beach now, and you start, the word we use is accretion. You start accreting sand, and it starts backing up the coast of Lake Michigan. So people start seeing beach, and then we get this discussion.
Beaches they never saw.
Beaches that never existed. There's a beach in front of my house. I come from Illinois. Looks like we only got about 30 seconds, and I like it. I don't want people on. So that's the charge. We only got a few seconds left. That's a topic I want to get into someday and just go over and over from everything from Mount Baldy to Hoosier Slide to the lighthouse all the way up to Long Beach.
We'll talk about that when it gets
All right.
back into court.
It's good time. We got lots more to do. We only got a few seconds. Anything you want to say? It's always fun to be here.
Everything's wonderful.
Everything's great. You are beautiful. Thank you.
See you next week.